If you're struggling with food intolerances or you just don't feel like yourself anymore, then you're not alone. So, tune into this inspirational conversation I had with Adine, where she shares how her work in the Naturally Healthy Club has helped her improve her relationship with her food intolerances, but even better, how it's impacted all the other areas of her life as she's changed herself back to being the person that she's glad to be. Okay, so welcome, Adine. So let's start by tell me, like, if you can cast your mind back all those a long time ago, what was your relationship with food and your body like before you joined Naturally Healthy Club?
So I had a lot of sort of up and down, a lifelong journey with food intolerances. So that wasn't sort of a new thing, but I joined sort of as COVID had hit. We had about 6 months worth of COVID, I think, and the stress had gotten so much to my body. So my body had basically said no more meat. I was really had very little food left that made me feel good at all. So definitely was probably the worst struggle, except for my very initial struggle when I was 20 in terms of my food.
Right, right. So it was like you kind of before COVID, you were in an okay place, but then the stress of like isolation and all those things.
It was quite bad. I think that things sort of went downhill-ish as I had my children, and of course, I could no longer focus the same kind of time to making sure that I was eating food that worked for me, and also my body changed a lot that I wasn't necessarily expecting, and that was a
Yeah.
difficult thing.
Right, right. And so you were struggling to navigate those like actually my body's not tolerating the same food that it used to. And yeah. Right.
Very
And how
much.
did you feel about like your weight and that side of things?
Sort of my weight had never gone back down since the pregnancies, and I sort of had left it alone. It wasn't a great feeling, but it wasn't sort of my primary motivator at the time because I was just struggling so much to just feel like I had food to eat that didn't make me feel horrible.
Yeah, so that was more of a survival like thing. Right. Okay. Okay, and so what tipped you over from thinking about like deciding to work with me to from going from thinking about it to actually deciding to sign up for the Naturally Healthy Club?
So that was an interesting thing as I was thinking back, because I had been getting your stone soup emails for several years. A friend had sort of put me onto it, and I don't even think I opened any of them. It was always, okay, I will when I have time, when I have time, when I have time. And then one night in the middle of the night, I don't remember what the subject line was, but something about, change your relationship with food, or I can help you, something along those lines. And I opened it up and I started reading. And I basically sat there and cried. And I said, this is what I need to do. Right now, I have to do this. And at 10 o'clock at night, even though I was so exhausted, I sat and I filled out the intake form. I said, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. So it was
Wow.
such a very gut reaction to saying, this is right. I know this is happening right now. I know this is what has to happen.
And isn't that amazing that like you'd had all these like you'd been on my like email list for a long time and you'd never opened anything.
Nope. Nope. I had never opened it before.
Right. And then it just right. Wow. So what did you have like what concerns did you have about your ability to get the most out of the Naturally Healthy Club before you joined?
I think at the time, well, first of all, because I really had this sort of visceral reaction that this was the right place, I didn't have too many reservations in terms of saying, okay, I'm going to try it. But I was really in such a deep, dark place in all things, that things were hard to change, that it didn't feel so easy to change. But what I really did, I don't know when you started saying a lot of it, of I'm exactly where I need to be, and I don't have to know how it's true. I'm getting the lessons I need. And sort of, I really started to try to remember that as my basic principle, that showing up every week, and I really am somebody who needs the human contact. I'm not as good about filling
Yeah,
out
the
my form
live
from
element is
Circle.
yeah, you
Is it's so much my way of connecting with the world, is that it's about a person, even though it's not face to face. It is that Zoom has become our face to face, and that's okay.
And that works for you, yeah.
It very much does. So I think that some of my negative thoughts were, I'm not doing enough, I should be doing more, and I just tried to make sure that I was just showing up, even when it felt hard, that that was good enough to just keep showing up and to get the baby steps, because it took a lot of baby steps to get here 2.5 years later in
Yeah.
a much better place.
Yeah, great. So that's a nice segue. So, like, how has being in the Naturally Healthy Club changed the way you feel about your body and your food intolerances and your future?
So many positive changes. I think it really made a big difference when Sheila said a few weeks ago, she said, the Adine who comes now to Death Naturally Healthy Club is not the same Adine who was a year ago, and even 2 years ago before she joined. That really made me think back to say, oh yes, I was really in a very, very bad place when I started.
Wow.
So I see changes in all things, which you did promise me in that first, when we had our first meeting. And I remember so clearly, you said, Adine, you're going to come for all the side benefits that people don't come for. That's going to be where you're going to thrive. And I think that definitely made such a big difference, that even just dealing with the stress of this June, that I had spent so many Junes thinking that I was having a heart attack, or I don't know, brain aneurysms, and oh my gosh, so many MRIs and visits to the hospital, because I just couldn't deal with all the things that, changing my thoughts has made such a difference in all
Yeah.
aspects of
Okay.
my life.
So yeah, just for people who don't know, like so every June's like a really busy time for you.
So that this June has felt so much easier, even though there has been more stress, that I have my tools to deal with, coming to class when I need support, new thoughts, and just reminding myself that rest is my priority, that eating well is my priority. And those are things absolutely that I've learned throughout my time in Naturally Healthy Club, because it's not just about the food itself, but it's everything around the food is so, so important.
Yes, yes. Okay, and there's been no trips to the hospital this June, Adine?
No trips to the hospital, no trips to the hospital, even, and even as money issues have come up, I just feel like I can change my thoughts around each of the struggles so that it doesn't feel as difficult.
Yeah, so even though the stress is still there, you're able to navigate it in a more empowered way.
And certainly even that in the past few months that my weight has actually changed, which it hadn't for a very long time, which was very exciting. And thinking back to that, all of the lessons that I have learned has made that much more possible. That I can talk myself, although, maybe not this week. This week hasn't been the best week, but that's okay. And even that, to say, it's okay. I don't have to beat myself up about my choices, that what's happening isn't necessarily what's happening in the moment, doesn't navigate my whole rest of my whole life. And that spiral, that was such an easy spiral to get into in the old days.
Yes, great. So even though you've got the stress, it doesn't get you into that really out of control place. Yeah. Yeah, and so you like and also like you so you have lost you so you lost some weight and then you've been through crazy June and you haven't gained it back.
I haven't. I have maybe a few hundred grams. It's gone, sort of settled in. Um, but I do feel that the breakthrough for that was, um, getting my system in gear, and the magnesium that worked for me, that sort of a lifelong constipation sufferer, really, that allowed allowed me to listen to my body, because that, I realized, was really the trick, was that I couldn't even possibly listen to my body about fullness when it was full of
All the time,
emotion.
yeah.
So that, I think, was the first step towards saying, I can now listen to my body and make that weight move.
Great, great. So it's like getting the bathroom thing sorted, and then you were able to focus on that skill of really listening to your body in terms of how much food to eat, and you've really run with that now, haven't you, Adine?
It's really worked well. I do the past couple of days, just that's been the end of what's going on. I thought, oof, I can tell that I'm eating to capacity as opposed to I wasn't necessarily before. But I have that understanding and ability to make those choices rather than just I don't know. And I'm in panic mode, so eating is at least something I can do.
Yes, right, right. So there's kind of 2 aspects. You've learned how to handle the panic in another way, and then
Yes.
also because the constipation's sorted, then you're able to actually tune into your body and stop eating when you like, leaving half a hot dog behind. What
Not
other
every
examples
day.
did you have? I'm trying to remember.
Well, the other day I did leave some chocolate pudding behind because I took a bite and I just didn't feel like it. And that doesn't mean I necessarily stop eating, but sometimes my body says that's not what I'm looking for right now. I really to tune into not just amount, but also what I'm craving makes a big difference.
Yeah, great. So you the type of food as well, you're able to listen to that. And so tell me more, Dean, about like what you how you like because you mentioned like at the beginning, like your food intolerances were really the big driver for you like joining the Naturally Healthy Club. So what are you like what's different there now? Like what are you noticing?
So I did get most of my protein back, although I still can't eat poultry. My body just I'm very much someone I smell the food to decide if I want to eat it, and it's just not something that my body feels like eating. So I listen. Um, I'm finding that very much your discussion about protein, I'm much more aware of my protein intake and making sure that that's part of what's going on. So at least I feel like I have much more control over the food intolerances, that I'm no longer sort of eating and not knowing what it's going to do to my body. And that makes a big difference too. That if I choose, okay, I'm going to have a brownie, I know that sugar often gives me a headache. I will then have a nap and then I will feel better because I feel like that's the choice that I'm going to make. So, if I'm working or I'm out, I will not necessarily make a choice to have sugar because I know that it won't make me feel good in the long run and I won't necessarily enjoy it the same way. So I really am very careful about those kinds of things. And even eating out, which isn't my favorite thing, um, I'm much more able to listen to my body and to say, okay, I will eat some things and not other things. I often take a container so I can have, if I want to have some dessert, but I know that late at night is not the right time, I'll take it with me and eat it the next couple of days so that I'm spreading it out and not abusing just because it's in front of me.
Great. So you found a way to like have the things that you want to have, but in a way that minimizes any like negative impact. So you're not feeling like you're missing out and but also like you're not having like negative health consequences from eating too much sugar or whatever in one sitting.
Definitely, and certainly that cheese has always been a love, and that was a long time instigator of the constipation. So the fact that the magnesium has just helped everything move, then I can make my choice. And a piece of brie is an everyday thing because that is part of my life, and I want to. And so because those things are working, I can make choices in that way. That
Right. So you've been able to include dairy back in, like having include cheese back in, right, without it. Oh, amazing. Yay. I love
right.
cheese too, Dean.
Oh, can't. Milk, but cheese, oh my goodness, yes.
Yes, I'm with you on that. Okay. And is there anything else like that you're noticing that's different since you joined?
Well, all things really that I certainly not ever perfect, but to be calmer around circumstances and situations, dealing with relationships is really something that has been helped a lot. So first off, for myself to feel better and to prioritize rest so I can have the energy and the emotional stability to deal with other things that are happening, and then to find compassion and more understanding in a family that has lots of neurodiversity that I don't share, so that I have found more ways to be understanding, and that has helped a great deal.
Right, so it's not just food that's your relationship with food that's changed it to relate your relationship with your, like, loved ones as well, it's helped you
Very
navigate.
much. And even boundaries, I was thinking about even boundaries with my parents, to them understanding my needs so that they are supporting in the ways that I need them now and not adding to stress that was happening in the past, and that I have been able to train them as well.
We love that idea.
All is possible.
Yeah, amazing. And so what surprised you most about being in the Naturally Healthy Club, Adine?
I think that how much everything changed. Even though you promised and I believed you, I didn't I don't think I realized how bad a place I was in. And that was really, now I can look back and say, ooh la la, that was not a good place, because it was just a matter of survival. Every moment felt like just surviving from one moment to the next. Um, so looking back on the 2.5 years ago, Adine, I'm happy to be
Not
the
to be
not
there
not
anymore.
not to be there anymore, and to have tools as things get hard. It's not just, okay, I've come out of there and have spent a long time in Naturally Healthy Club, which longer than most people do, but I've gotten so many things out of it, and I still feel like there's things to be learned, but I don't feel like I need it in the same way.
Yeah,
that
right.
that's right, that the self-coaching is really second nature, and even a remembrance for then I when I used to be able to do it and I had lost it, so that I now have those skills, and even just to be able to rest when I need to, and to make that the priority, is such an important part of my everyday life, that those habits have become well established.
Yeah, so good, Adine. Yeah, wow. Isn't it funny, like, that we can look back on a period of time and actually go, "Oh my goodness, at that time, I didn't realize how bad things were." And now it's like, yeah. So it sounds like now that you had, like, you are more empowered in, like, your tool in your ability to coach yourself and your, like, way you're showing up in the world, that even if you did have life circumstances that were really challenging, like being in COVID, like, you would be able to navigate them in a better way now.
Definitely, I think so. I mean, I don't know if I could deal with having a newborn again, because that stress is unbelievable, as we know. Um, I'm glad that I love my children, but that was no
But
more.
yeah.
But definitely that I feel like that I can navigate things, that things don't feel so hard. That the car broke down and we need a new car. Okay, we're
But
gonna figure out how to make it work, and be okay with those kinds of things.
yeah,
That's It's not
amazing.
as hard as it was.
Oh, so good. Life doesn't have to be so hard. So who would you recommend the Naturally Healthy Club to, Adine?
I would say basically anybody who's ready to really do some introspective work and think about how their thoughts and actions can be adjusted for positive change. I think that somebody who's really closed off would not get the benefits that you would offer to them. But most as I've watched you change the system of the Naturally Healthy Club, because I've been in so many sessions, I
Yeah.
really like how you keep offering simpler and simpler steps, so that people, even if they come in with some resistance, and they don't realize that they have the resistance, that they come in with some resistance, that you make it simple enough that you can affect that positive change in small enough steps. And I hope that anybody who really wants to change how they see food, and more importantly, how they see themselves, that's really what positive change can happen.
Yeah. So it's not just if you've got a problem with weight or you've got a problem with food allergies, it's like, or food intolerances, it's like if you don't feel good in yourself, then it it's beneficial for that. Yeah. Yeah. And anyone who wants a simpler, like an easy way to do it, like a gentle way to do it.
Yes, without also a sustainable way, right? Because it's not a flashy way. That's the world likes lots of flash. But I was glad to come to somebody who wasn't about flash, and that it was very simple. And that even though in the beginning it wasn't as simple, it probably worked better for me because I like lots of information, and then sort of going through the steps with having the whole overview. But I think that for most people, step by step is easier so that they don't get overwhelmed. I like to learn, so then I'm good with big picture, small picture, that kind of accordion style. The world, most people can't handle that in their everyday life. Small
Yeah.
steps are better.
Small steps, yeah, and sustainable steps. So anyone that's looking to like change, but in a slow and sustainable way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat, Adine. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
I just I do hope that more people can find you who need the support, and that it really I really am amazed how much it has changed me back to the person that I'm glad to be. And that's really a very amazing thing, and I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, I'm so grateful to have helped you, Adine, but you're the one that's done the work. Uh,
But a good teacher leads the way so that you don't feel like you get lost in the bushes.
Amazing. Okay, so if you're curious about whether you could be like Adine and getting back to being the person that you're glad to be, the best way to find out is to, if that's possible for you, is to join me for my free live on Zoom Naturally Healthy Club information session. So, in that session, you're going to discover the 7 sneaky mistakes that block food lovers from losing weight sustainably and the counterintuitive approach that that stops these mistakes keeping you stuck, the 2 essential skills for a naturally healthy and enjoyable relationship with food so you reach and stay at your natural weight without restricting. And then the one little thing holding you back from changing and the simplest way to overcome it. So you actually get more enjoyment from food and never feel like you're missing out. And then finally, I'll share with you like how coaching and being in the healthy club actually works, and the exact simple doable process we follow so you feel in control of your weight and stop searching constantly for the answer and get to that place where you're feeling like the person you're feeling like like your real self, like the person that you're glad to be. So to get more details about those live information sessions, you just need to go to smp.to/NHC. So SMP stands for Simple Meal Plans, and it stands for Naturally Healthy Club. So it's smp.to/NHC. Or you could just check out the link in the show notes because that's going to be much easier. Okay, have a fantastic week, and I'll catch you next week.